The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Are you Daniel? One of the exiles my father, the king, brought from Judah? I heard you have the spirit of the gods is in you, and you have insight, intelligence, and outstanding wisdom. These wise men and these enchanters were brought before me to read this writing and tell me what it means, but they're no good. They couldn't explain it. Now I've heard that you are able to give the interpretations and to solve the difficult problems. If you can read this writing and tell me what it means, you will be clothed in the purple, and you will have the gold chain placed around your neck, and you will be made the third highest ruler in the kingdom. Come on, Daniel. I'm counting on you.
Keep your gifts for yourself, or give your rewards to someone else. However, I will read the inscription to the king and make the interpretation known unto him. O King, the Most High God granted sovereignty, grandeur, glory, and majesty to Nebuchadnezzar your father. Because of the grandeur which he bestowed on him, all the peoples, nations, and men of every language feared and trembled before him. Whomever he wished to kill, he killed, and whomever he wished, he spared. And whomever he wished, he elevated, but whomever he wished, he humbled. But when his heart was lifted up, and his spirit became so proud that he behaved arrogantly, he was disposed from his royal throne, and his glory was taken away from him. He was also driven away from mankind, and his heart was made like that of beasts, and his dwelling place was with the donkeys. And he was given grass to eat like cattle, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven, until he recognized that the Most High God is ruler over the realm of mankind, and that he sets over it whomever he wishes. Yet you, his son Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, even though you knew all of this, but you have exalted yourself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your nobles, your wives, and your concubines have been drinking wine from them. And you have praised the gods of silver and gold, of iron, of bronze, of wood and stone, which do not see, hear, or understand. But the God in whose hand has your life, breath, and all your ways, you have not glorified. Then the hand was sent from him, and the inscription was written. Now this is the inscription that was written out. Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation of the message. Mene, God has numbered your kingdom and put an end to it. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found deficient. Perez, your kingdom has been divided and given over to the Medes and the Persians.
In Daniel 5, a mysterious hand writes on the wall during King Belshazzar's lavish feast, signaling the imminent fall of Babylon. The dramatic moment reveals the consequences of arrogance and the blasphemy against God. Join us as we delve into a cryptic message, the king's downfall, and the lessons of divine justice and humility. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of A Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts
Nakhaz gay.
and Earl Roberts. Hopefully, everyone out there had a great week and enjoying the Sabbath. I mean, hopefully, you're listening to this on the Sabbath. But oh my, Sabbath's always a good time. Tell you, boy, I never knew the importance of Sabbath until I actually needed a rest in my life.
Yeah, cause no lie. Boy, but you make a mistake of taking a nap before the podcast on a Friday evening. Boy, you feel like you're under anesthesia. I want you to sleep.
Boy, so I was like, boy, the devil don't want me to get back up and do this podcast, boy.
No, but then also, right, the weekend, like rest on the weekend isn't created equal in my opinion. Friday night is the best sleep you will get all week because
you ain't got nothing to do tomorrow.
You don't got work tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, sorry to those who have stuff to do on the Sabbath, pastors, praise team, even people who work, police and stuff like that, essential workers, stuff like that. But knowing I have no obligation for the next 2 days, I sleep in hard on Friday. You see what I'm saying? Saturday, I sleep in a little bit hard, but I know as soon as I wake up, I have plenty of work to do.
Boy,
personal work. You see what I'm saying?
Gotta get the week started, buddy.
Yeah, you gotta do some work around the house, take care of your physical, stuff like that. And then every day through the week, just doing your day to day. But that's Sabbath rest, man. That is essential. I just want to reiterate that Jesus is our rest. That is true. But he is also not a substitution for the Sabbath rest, which was implemented in the garden, which is implemented before sin. You see what I'm saying? So it's like that's important because when Jesus planned to redeem the world, it was after sin. A lot of the things that we did was as a result of sin. Sacrifices, ordinances, these things are as a result of sin. You know what I mean? However, the Sabbath was something that was implemented before sin and before Jesus was said to come. You see what I'm saying? So it could not be a type. It could not be a shadow of Jesus because when the Sabbath was implemented, there was no reason for Jesus even to come. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, man. And I'm saying this because the Sabbath was implemented on the seventh day of Earth's existence. We know Adam and Eve did not sin that day because we get the sixth day. We had it was created. They tell us what happened the next day, and then after all of that, we had a day. They had sinned. So
that's one of the great mysteries. How long were they in the garden before they fall?
Boy.
Because we really don't know.
We don't know. It could be thousands of years. It could be.
Well, it couldn't be thousands of years.
Oh, because they say how long? Because they say how long.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, it could have been hundreds of years.
Could have been.
It could have been.
It could have been.
Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. It's always interesting. Like, did Satan get them in week number 3?
Well, something.
That'd have been
they
something.
Didn't stand a chance.
Or were they in the garden at least a year or two before they, had to stumble and fall?
In my opinion, you can't name all the animals. I don't know if you name all the animals and trees and like plants and stuff, but you can't name all the animals in a year. In my opinion, Adam, was a hard worker. Who knows?
Hey, this one had a perfect brain. Direct knowledge from God himself.
But then you just knocking them out like doop, 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 doop. See, because you actually have to see every animal too. You know what I mean? Like, well, I know.
That's interesting.
Think about it though. Every animal that ever exists, the ones that even extinct now.
But the thing about it too, though, is like some animals, I don't know.
I get what you're saying. Some animals is like crossbreeds and things, and it might not have been around at the time, right? But every group of animals.
I get you. Just I even Like, I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Who knows, man?
I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Super interesting thought. I know how you always ask, like, did Adam have a belly button?
That's some food for thought. Did he have a belly button? Who knows?
Him or Eve.
Right. Adam probably had that scar from his rib. Who knows? He might not have a scar at all.
That's the next thing. I mean, because God is this God. God might have had the perfect surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
Stitch you up without a scar, buddy.
Without a trace. Who knows? Yeah, there's some little speculations.
Mm-hmm.
Some fun speculations.
All right. So for everyone, we are in the book of Daniel. We're in the book of Daniel. Last week, episode 196, we did Nebuchadnezzar's second dream. And it was an interesting episode. We see Nebuchadnezzar the dream about essentially showing him that, he'll be turned into a madman. Me paraphrasing and using my own words, but he'll be turned into a crazy man. There's a vision of a tree. The tree will be cut down. And then, he'll be turned into a madman for 7 years. And so we see, and Daniel also at the end of that gave him an option like, hey man, like if I was you, I would, kind of repent and be generous to the poor. But Nebuchadnezzar didn't really do that. And like a year later after that point, he was admiring his vast kingdom and his power. And in that very moment, the prophecy became true. And Nebuchadnezzar essentially turned into a beast of the fields. He turned and acted like a ox for 7 years. 7 years until he, acknowledged the one true God, essentially.
Boy, that's something.
Yeah.
And and after that, his kingdom was restored, and he recognized God to be the one true God. You see what I'm saying? And let's just think about, sometimes we read these things in the Bible and, we're surrounded by a world of fiction. There's so many fictional things that happen. Even now, bro, you go online, we have AI. It seems real, but it's fake. And then we also have some people who they get a kick out of making fake headlines with the watermark of CNN or TMZ or whoever, and they make it look real, We have people who they make a living off of doing skits that are so realistic that, you think it's real, and it might be like this very outrageous scenario that they get in, but they make it look natural and like an organic thing. And you get to read in the Bible, and sometimes it's like you don't put into perspective the impact of what you just read. So you have a king. This man is well respected. He was a tree. In the dream, he was a metaphorical tree that gave the whole world shade, that nobody could miss. You see what I'm saying? Everybody ate fruit from it. The beasts rested under it. Stuff like that. Like, he benefited everyone. And now he turned into a wild animal. That's big news. You can't miss it. You see what I'm saying? Like, don't even speculate that someone could miss it, because that is uncommon. You see what I'm saying? Something that big, that'll be the talk of the town. That'll be the most interesting phenomenon that happened. And then he get all his senses back. And you can't say he didn't, because he was giving back the kingdom. You see what I'm saying? He thrived.
Exactly.
He thrived. So he's obviously competent enough after the fact. So that must have been like a really bizarre time, in their kingdom, in their empire. And for sure, people were affected by that. Like, people noticed that.
Like, there ain't too much civil records for the kingdom during those 7 years in history. Like, it's crazy because you have a bunch of records before and you have a bunch of records after, but it's this conspicuous 7-year gap. Because naturally in the Babylonian records, they ain't gonna say the king was a madman.
Yeah, who in their right mind? This king who you reserve so much was acting like a baser, bro, for 7 years. Nobody could say that, bro. It would have to be someone whose agenda is to tarnish their name.
The king's legacy, yep.
Yeah, exactly. Because bro, even when I was in Dubai, bro, but the love they have for their leader, bro, I can't remember the term they use for king. You see what I'm saying?
Sheik. Or
Sheik.
sheik.
Yeah, that.
I
So,
tell me to
right,
see it.
right. Trust me, but they respect him so much, bro. But and I talk him out. I ain't no FBI agent or nothing. So these people ain't got no reason to lie to me. You know what I mean? Like I ain't no secret operative. But right when they talk about the, because they giving us tours and stuff like that, giving us a tour of the country and stuff. They but every time they reference their leader, bro, it's great respect. You know what I mean? They bragging about him. That's something that I noticed, and I can't see them. I like this. Let's put it in perspective, because this like around the same. This like the same region of the world. You see what I'm saying? Like this is like this very the part of the Middle East where I was at, very close to the Persian, what is historically known as Persia. And they I just can't imagine having a king that you revere so much, and you see them in such a shameful state, and you bragging about that. You know what I mean? Like that's something that I could see, or I could imagine a nation just not talking about. Like the king going crazy, sad. You see what I'm saying? We could keep trying and hope he come back. And because he did, not really that much to talk about.
Yeah, still wild that he came back, but God says we're gonna be for 7 years. So,
Oh.
And so now this week we are in chapter 5 of Daniel, and it's going to actually be an interesting chapter. So, in chapter 5 starts off at verse 1. Actually, Belshazzar the king made a great feast for thousands of his lords, and he drank wine in the presence of the 1,000. So now we see Nebuchadnezzar is no longer king, and now we're introduced to this king named Belshazzar, not to be confused with Daniel's Babylonian name of Belteshazzar. So Belshazzar is now king of the Babylonian Empire. And just for a quick historical lesson for those who care about history, somewhat like me. So in the order of kings, so like you have Nebuchadnezzar, who was king of Babylon for like 43 years, right? Then if you remember in 2 Kings 25, you hear about a Babylonian king named Amel-Marduk, who was his name is Amel-Marduk. And then reading from 2 Kings 25, verse 27, in the 37th year of exile, King Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the year of Amel-Marduk became king of Babylon. The year he became king of Babylon, he released Jehoiakim, king of Judah, from prison. He did this on the 27th day of the 12th month. He spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat of honor, higher than those of the other kings who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiakim put aside his prison clothes for the rest of his life and ate regularly at the king's table. Day by day, the king gave Jehoiakim a regular allowance as long as he lived. So we see right after Nebuchadnezzar, Amel-Marduk was the king that actually released Jehoiakim from prison and gave him a seat at the king's table in Babylon. But Amel-Marduk only reigned for Babylon for 2 years. He was usurped by another king named Nagri-Leser, who reigned for Babylon for 6 years. The Babylon talk with him at all. Then Nagri-Leser had a son who literally reigned for like a month, named lavish Marduk. And then this is where history gets interesting. This is when Nabonidus on Nabonidus became king of Babylon. Now Nabonidus was an interesting king because he was a very religious guy, and one of his missions, or one of his aspects, what he wanted to do was switch the main god of Babylon to the god of sin. Well, the god's name is Sin. It's like the moon god from Nabu. And so this didn't really make him a popular guy in the Babylonian Empire, which we'll probably talk about later. But as part of his like priestly studies and different stuff, he actually spent a lot of time away from the actual city of Babylon. He had a son whose name was Belshazzar, who was co-regent with him, especially on the times when he was not in Babylon. So this is where Belshazzar was. You almost could think of him as the crown prince, but he was the co-regent. Almost comes to something similar to what's happening in Saudi Arabia right now. Like King Ben Salman is like 90 years old and he's still alive, but his son running the show right now, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And that's kind of what we see was happening in Babylon way back in the day, literally thousands of years ago. So that's a quick history lesson, how we got from Nebuchadnezzar to Belshazzar. And go for it.
Well, and what's so crazy is, in a couple of decades ago, there was a lot of confusion on who this Belshazzar person was, because the last documented king, which Earl just stated on paper, was Nabonidus. And in the Bible, they say it's a Belshazzar character. You know what I mean? And so a lot of historians is like, right, I know what the Bible talking about. You see what I'm saying? And they use that to discredit the Bible. Like, bro, another inaccuracy in the Bible, until archaeologists discovered a stele or an artifact, a rock that had inscriptions in it. And and it mentioned Belshazzar's name as Nabonidus' son. And because Belshazzar was never actually king, it's very little documentation, especially up until that point, that was generally known that he even existed. You see what I'm saying? It's like, can you name all of Nebuchadnezzar's sons? If he had any children, you know what I mean? We only really know about his successors because that's what's important to the timeline of things, And because Belshazzar was not actually king, it wasn't a lot of documentation on it until they found some. And I was like, I guess the Bible was telling the truth,
It was telling the truth about it. And it's so interesting, right? Because if you look at the timeline, since these other kings in between them didn't rule that long, is only about a 10-year gap between when Belshazzar became co-regent and when Nebuchadnezzar actually died. It was about a decade. So it wasn't even that long.
Because I often wonder about that, because I like, Daniel must have been exhausted in that kingdom because he's just going through all type of kings, bro. Like when we get to the end of this book, he could done tough to serve a good much kings, bro. Like, and I just like, bro, how old was this Daniel guy, bro? How old was he? Because he was there through Nebuchadnezzar's reign. Yeah. Now it's like 3 kings after Nebuchadnezzar now. I don't know.
Yeah, Daniel been around for a minute. And even next chapter we can be like, bro, you was around for a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's a quick history on Belshazzar. So now we see Belshazzar is throwing this massive feast, this massive banquet. And he's drinking wine. And while he tasted the wine, Belshazzar gave the command to bring the gold and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple which had been in Jerusalem, that the kings and his lords, his wives, and his concubines might drink from them. Then they brought the... Go for want to say something?
I just want to know. It's a question I always wanted to know. Out of all the people you all capture, why you take the golden vessels? Why you using the ones from Jerusalem? You know what I mean? Because what's interesting about that is that we remember Solomon's temple. We remember all of the jewels and the riches that was in that temple. And I do remember that temple getting raided several times. I remember they take all the doors and thing off the temple because it was made of gold. You know what I mean? Like, I can't remember if it was doors specifically, but it was some type of furniture that was made of gold. And they stripped that from the temple. And the Israelites, they had to redo it with bronze. You know what I mean? Because they didn't have as much splendor. So by the time Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar and them came, this wasn't the big plunder. This wasn't the big jackpot. This wasn't... the temple it wasn't as rich as it once was. You know what I mean? And if you take over, if you the great Babylonian Empire, the head of gold, right? Surely Jerusalem was not the most rich nation that you conquered. You know what I mean? Surely there were other comparable nations.
Because y'all conquered the Syrians, y'all conquered Egypt.
And that's why I'm saying there's Syria. Oh, Egypt. That alone, bro. That
Exactly.
alone, bro. You see what I'm saying? The Israelites used to sell stuff to Egypt. You know what I mean? Like, and also the Assyrians was the ones who was taking everything. You know, they had the northern and southern kingdom. They had the Assyrians and the Syrians to deal with, bro. It was a hard time for a while, you know. But anyway, I think this is a page out of old Nebuchadnezzar's book where it's like, I know who your God is, but I don't rate you like that, bro. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, this is what I think, but y'all, you know what I mean? Like, I could drink out of y'all, you know, like when people get the Grammy award and they really want to show that they don't really care about it, they pour some wine in the Grammy because it's like a trunk type of shape.
Yeah.
And they just drink out it like, oh, that's just a cup to me, you know?
Yeah.
I know, bro.
So, I mean, but to your point, right? And some of the conversations we had like before, like why people always just go their way to disrespect the one true God. And just something you should just ask yourself, right? Like, why people go their way to disrespect the one true God? Because there are other gods from other kingdoms that definitely had sacred artifacts, right? So why in this time of a drunken stupor, you decide to, you know which kingdom I'm about to disrespect right now? The Israelite gods. Bring their goblets from Jerusalem that probably to this point been in storage for the last like almost 50 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, why all of a sudden that one come to your mind? Like, why are you going out your way to disrespect things that was dedicated to the Israelite God? After, granted, and the reason why I say the reason why I say points only like a 10-year difference between when Nebuchadnezzar died and him. Belshazzar was alive when Nebuchadnezzar was acting like an ox. He was probably alive when Nebuchadnezzar made the statue, right? Being that to say, bro, he know the power of the one true God. To your point, he knows what the Israelite God doing. So, this is really just an emboldened, stupid, arrogant, I am going to disrespect y'all. The great King Nebuchadnezzar had so much respect for y'all God. I can show y'all, bro, even better than Nebuchadnezzar, because who is y'all God to me? And the next reason why this so, the next historical context I think we probably should point out, right now at this very moment as this chapter, the events of this chapter are ongoing, the Babylonian kingdom, the city is actually under siege from the Persian Empire. Nabonidus, his father, is out fighting the Battle of Opis, right now losing. So while his country is literally at war, the city that he is in is currently under siege. This man ain't saying all hands on deck, let's prepare for battle. This man saying, guess what? We are the great Babylonian Empire. They can't touch us because we are the kingdom of gold. Let us have a great feast while we are under siege. And just to paint the picture what a siege is, no more food coming into your city, nothing to get out, nothing in, nothing out. Right. We are starving you of resources, and in a time you are under siege should not be the time when you are throwing an elaborate banquet for 1,000 people. Like, literally, it makes no sense.
Oh man, he giving me like brat, like, you know, certain people who, you know, like spoiled. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because what in your right mind make you think you want to mess with the God that Nebuchadnezzar messed with and failed? That Nebuchadnezzar had to learn the hard way who this God was. You know what I mean? Like, bro, that's why I try to make it a point to say this wasn't a situation that you could have just not heard about Nebuchadnezzar. If this was someone else, you could not have heard about them. That's very easy for me to believe. I'd even believe if they say you had never heard of Daniel. Okay, that's fine. You know what I mean? We ain't on social media, bro. These things, you know what I mean? Knowledge wasn't as easily acquired back then. But the king, everybody know the king. That's just how it is, bro. Everybody, especially such a popular king.
Exactly.
You would think that. No, I'm not even gonna say that. The Israelite God was well known at this point. Even before Babylonian exile, their God was known, and now their God is well known. This between the stuff with the Hebrew boys, also the Israelite king being a dinner guest every day. You see what I'm saying? It's like it's respect. It's respect for the Israelites and their God. So Belshazzar, he basically was trying to say, bro, I don't care about this God, bro. That's how I come in. You see what I'm saying? Like, so, and we've seen that in the Book of Kings, where you might have a king who they worship God, and then their son was just like, not me though. You know what I mean? I ain't worshiping God at all, bro. Like, I worshiping idols, bro. Straight up.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my. So now we see they brought in verse 3, they brought the gold vessels that had been taken from the temple of the house of God, which had been in Jerusalem. And the king and his lords, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and silver, bronze and iron, wood and stone. So you're drinking from the things that were dedicated to the one true God. And while drinking them, you praising 6 other different gods. At minimum. Mercy. And then in verse 5, in that same hour, the finger of a man's hand appeared and wrote opposite the lampstand on the plaster of the wall in the king's palace. And the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance changed and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his hips were loosened and his knees knocked against each other. The king cried aloud to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, the soothsayers. The king spoke, saying to the wise men of Babylon, whoever reads this writing and tells me its interpretation shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around his neck. And he shall be the third ruler in the kingdom.
Do you think it's any significance to him saying he would be the third ruler in the kingdom?
Yes, that's the only thing he could have given you, because Nebuchadnezzar was number 1 and Belshazzar was number 2. So right. You couldn't be number 2 because I ain't number 1.
Right.
and that's even giving small credence that there was another ruler.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so even like proving the Bible true in the historical faction as well, because I can't give you number 2. Because typically, you know, when Joseph, oh yeah, I'll make you second in charge of the kingdom. Even when Daniel with Nebuchadnezzar, yeah, you could be essentially almost be like second in charge. Oh, buddy, I am the second in charge right now, so I can't give you that.
Right. They always used to say, I'll give you even up to half my kingdom. Like we saw that even in the Persian, with Esther in the Persian Empire. You know?
And guess what, buddy? Right now, I have half of the kingdom.
Yeah, I can't.
I can't give. The most I can do is make you third in charge, buddy.
Right. The best we can do is break this in 3, bro, because, you know what I mean? I can't get half.
And then now all the king's wise men came, but they cannot read the writing nor make known the king's interpretation. Then King Belshazzar was greatly troubled. His countenance was changed, and his lords were astonished.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a staunch change. You know what I mean? In attitude now, in all fairness, bro, I think you gotta be some type of psycho or something to see a hand appear out of nowhere right on the wall and you just keep your composure type situation. That's a very...
Because that face, right? Think about it, you're drinking. So he might have been a little lit, might have been drunk, right? So now you're trying to figure out, I must see things super drunk, but you know, wait, that's a hand. Right? And I like how the Bible give little hints like this, bro. Like, yeah, because the hand was on the opposite side on the lampstand. Because guess what? This ancient Babylon, they don't have electricity. This is a party at night. How did you light rooms way back in the day with lamps and torches, right? So over there where the light was, where it could be the most visible light for the people at this banquet, a hand appears and starts writing on the wall. And here's the thing: if you don't see the hand, guess what? Other people would have seen the writing as well appear. Right? So now you like, hold on, buddy. Other people seeing this too? What this mean? And I definitely saw a disembodied hand write this, you know? Like, what is going on? And it's interesting how the book of Daniel points out these miraculous things that happens, right? And they always try to bring in the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers.
Yes.
And time after time, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers have no power to interpret the things of God.
Yes. And when I read Daniel a few years ago, bro, Daniel has been a blessing to me, bro. Like, I really like the book, Daniel. it was at a time when, bro, tarot cards and astrology, they was making its rounds in our generation, bro. You remember that, bro? Like a couple years
Oh, I
back,
definitely
bro.
remember that. That was like around like 2019, 2018.
Yes, bro. But people was going crazy for them, dog.
Mhm.
And it, it used to kind of rub me very like wrong that people was buying this. And one day I Googled, I was like, where did astrology come from? And simple Google search gives me the Babylonian Empire, right?
Mhm.
And it checks out because we can see in the Bible where they use astrologers. You see what I'm saying? And I don't see much. I mean, there's people who believe in signs from the stars. That's an ancient thing. Like that used to happen for a very long time or whatever, right? And I when I discovered that, I just see the contrast of what I believe Daniel is trying to say. There's many different philosophies, and there are a lot of very intelligent people who subscribe to these philosophies. You know what I'm saying? You have people who are atheists, they believe in Scientology. Obviously,
Mhm.
they believe in the stars, you know. Um, and here Daniel is showing, bro, in a room full of wise men. This a wise men off. Like this a wisdom off right now. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
They could not hang with divine knowledge. You see what I'm saying? So it's like man-made stuff that you could study and you could come about with. They probably your people. And the reason I'm saying that is because would kings continue to call them if they just failed every time? You know, we only have this only like the third instance where they call the astrologers XYZ. You know what I mean? But to us, when we read this every other chapter, we like, but this just keep happening. This just keep happening. But this over a span of 50 plus years,
Mhm.
three out of three times in 50 years, it's not that much. So, and from where I sit, and it might be that the astrologers they take care of a lot of the other questions that was had throughout throughout the years. You know what I mean? Which gives them their validation. But when it comes to the things of divine importance, you can't read the stars are not going to tell you things about God. You see what I'm saying? About the Most High God. The stars
Mhm.
are not going to answer questions. Even Belteshazzar, right? And I'm sorry, Belshazzar, which is the king.
Mhm.
If he so believed in these astrologers and Chaldeans, why are you praying to stone and gold and thing like that? You see what I'm saying? And to me, it goes to show like in these polytheistic times, bro, like they just really was inclined to pray to many different things. But do you truly believe that? Because when you see a writing on the wall, what material was that wall made out of? Was it made of stone? Why you ain't praying to the God of stone in this time? And I'm not trying to be funny at all. You see what I'm saying? Like, why you bringing an astrologer? Like this ain't their jurisdiction. I don't think you get what
Mhm.
I'm saying. But but we see a constant theme in the book of Daniel where you have people who specialize in various other things that do not believe in God and they believe their God is correct. We see how that actually fares for them every time they put to the challenge.
Yeah, man. Like I agree 100%. I agree 100%. These it just shows like where you put your faith. Sometimes when you put your faith in men and things that are not of God, it's just pointless. Because now when the rubber meets the road, now you're scared, your knees knocking and your belly breaking down, and you have nowhere else to turn.
Boy, your knees knocking. You can't even control your legs. They embarrass this man, bro.
Terrified, boy. Terrified.
You see how Daniel document this, bro?
Boy, Daniel, do him dirty. Hey, but think
Yeah.
about it. You just were so proud 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's a part of the story.
Just like last chapter, the mighty Babylonian Empire, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And now you are no knees are knocking. Crazy. So now in verse 10, the queen, because of the words of the king and his lords, came to the banquet hall. She wasn't even partying with them. She was Esther before her time.
I
No
think,
Vashti.
yeah. I think another translation have her as the queen mother.
Interesting.
You see what I'm saying? So, okay, yeah, obviously the queen would be his mother because Nabonidus is the king.
Yeah,
okay,
that does make sense.
Yeah.
The queen spoke, saying, O king, live forever. Do not let your thoughts trouble you, nor let your countenance change. There is a man in your kingdom in whom the spirit of the with whom is the spirit of the holy God. And in the days of your father, light and understanding and wisdom like the wisdom of the gods were found in him. In King Nebuchadnezzar, your father king, made him chief of the magicians, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, and the soothsayers. Inasmuch as an excellent spirit, knowledge, understanding, interpreting dreams, and solving riddles, and explaining enigmas were found in this Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will give the interpretation. Boy, oh boy. I like how Daniel is always the last resort.
Always, bro. Always, all through this book.
The queen saying, all right. So remember Nebuchadnezzar? Yeah, so there was someone when he was alive, who was still alive in your kingdom, by the way, whom is the spirit of the holy God. And it's so interesting how, man, I know Paul says this, but no one could deny the existence of the one true God, right?
Yeah.
Whom surrounded in this nation, who she probably don't worship the one true God, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she know in a time of trouble, it's something different about the God that this Daniel serves. And some of being a witness, right? Because guess what? She didn't even say the Israelites. Because guess what? There were thousands of other Israelites in the kingdom of Babylon who weren't acting like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I give them a little shout out here, right? But who weren't acting like Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because think about it. She didn't even say it was like the Israelite God. You just know that's Daniel God.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of imposters right here in this kingdom. There's a lot of people who should be worshiping this God, but they worshiping our God. So I don't even know what they about. But Daniel,
One thing
he was
him.
different.
Yeah,
exactly.
He ain't worshiping no other God, bro. I telling you that now, bro.
Are you seeing the quality she's saying? Like she's saying all remarkable things.
Mm-hmm.
Like the God of like the wisdom, all I found in him. The light in him. Like, so she's saying some very good accolades about Daniel.
But sometimes I just forget how easy it is to forget things. Like you might watch a video and they'll say, hey, this person was the first person to XYZ. And you'll be thinking, bro, why isn't this a bigger deal? Because a lot of times, there are civil rights leaders around during the time of Martin Luther King, bro, that have very comparable resumes, bro, that nobody talks about. You know what I mean? And I remember learning about them in college. I'm like, what? He was doing this, but in Louisiana, you know what I mean? But in this state, in that state, why nobody ever talk with him? You know? And the fact that I just learned about this, while in contrast, about other civil rights leaders who do far less sometimes, but their names just keep coming up. You could tell how, like, if history isn't continuously shared, bro, it's easy to forget. Like my grandfather, he was big in the basketball world. And the OGs, when they see him, they're like, oh, that's your grandfather. They get excited. But people in my time, like my coaches and stuff like that, they probably don't know him. You know what I mean? That didn't really hold much weight. But in certain circles, it held weight. And so like, that was always kind of confusing to me because I'm like, bro, you a big deal or not? Because as a kid, everybody just older than you. You know what I mean? But when the older coaches see him, that's big respect. But some of the younger coaches, not familiar.
Because they ain't in his time.
They ain't in his time. And so Daniel, I think now, all of this accolades. Now, during Nebuchadnezzar's time, he was the chief person and he did XYZ. Why he lose his job? You know what I mean? Like, why does the queen have to remind you of Daniel? Now, I get it. He would know Nebuchadnezzar. He would know everything that happened to Nebuchadnezzar. That's the king. But in my mind, I'm like, why isn't the most dependable wise man in this nation, in this empire, why is he so lesser known? And it just go to show, bro, like, out of sight, out of mind. When if people don't share and don't speak about what you did or a situation, it's easily forgettable.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now in verse 13. Then Daniel was brought in before the king. The king spoke, and Daniel said, "Are you Dan?" The king spoke and said to Daniel, "Are you that Daniel, who was one of the captives of Judah, whom my father the king brought from Judah? I have heard of you that the Spirit of God is in you, and that the light of understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you. Now the wise men and astrologers have been brought in before me, that they should read the writing and make known its interpretation, but they could not give the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of you that you can give the interpretations and explain enigmas. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretation, you shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around your neck, and shall be the third ruler in the kingdom." Oh boy.
So he can't even identify Daniel. This going to my point. Like, Daniel, as much as he didn't have the fame to support some of his works. Like you remember when you was telling me about Nikola Tesla?
Yeah.
Popular inventor, right? No, I wouldn't say popular inventor. He was he invented a lot of things, but he didn't get the proper credit for the things. You know what I mean? And some people, go back and they try to give him his props X, Y, Z, but there are the people who hijacked his ideas who have more fame than him. Thomas Edison. Yeah. So we have Daniel here, right? Prime example. Daniel interpreted, bro, just the fact that you were able to interpret the one thing that no one in the land was able to do. To me,
exactly,
that's accolades. And then you have other scholars and stuff who live in a similar time frame, that, bro, Plato and all these people, like, they such men of wisdom. But you have a man who in this empire, bro, you could call anybody to interpret this thing and they can't. There's only one, because this person is connected to God. But lesser known person. When he pull up to the kingdom, this was a man who was one of the highest wise men in the nation. Now you are an official, you the actual serving king. You don't even know how he look. You the right Daniel? You the one? XYZ, I don't know, it just go to show, bro. Like his name don't really precede him, to that degree.
Which is interesting too, right? Because I'm just thinking about like how ancient empires were run. Well, the historical context, because granted, none of us was living back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like when you become king, your court is changed. Sometimes, like the root that the wise men around you change. So, 5 kings removed from Nebuchadnezzar. Granted, he should have known who Daniel was, but at the same time, it's like, even when Nebuchadnezzar had the dream about the tree, he bring in Daniel last. And Nebuchadnezzar knew who Daniel was.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it also makes me believe like Daniel just wasn't around in the court as much, just because we could tell that Daniel wasn't one for the praise and adoration and that type of stuff. He wasn't there like, bro, I interpret in this vision because God gave me the interpretation. I ain't here to slop up with you guys. I'm here to do my job and serve my God. Any other extracurricular activities, I am not involved in.
Right.
And the man is a eunuch. He ain't like he got a family. Daniel is a simple man. He doing his job and he leaving.
That's still crazy, bro.
Hey, so now we see in verse 17, Daniel answered and said before the king, "Let your gifts be for yourself and give your rewards to another."
Keep your gift.
Yeah, I ain't here for that.
See, at this time, I want to assume that Daniel was disrespect. He felt disrespected by their. You come in there and you see what they was doing to, you see like how they view you and your people. That's I don't know, like. You blaspheme my God. You disrespect us.
Hey, and then Daniel probably knew quite literally the writing was on the wall.
Oh yeah, and
You don't know.
hence the origin of the phrase.
Exactly. It's crazy how this like some phrases just like biblical, but literally the writing was on the wall for this kingdom. And Daniel said, "You will keep your gifts and your rewards, but I will still read the writing to the king and make known to him the interpretation. O king, the Most High God gave Nebuchadnezzar, your father, the kingdom and majesty, glory, and honor. And because of the majesty that he gave him, all the peoples, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whomever he wished, he executed. Whomever he wished, he kept alive. Whomever he wished, he set up. Whomever he wished, he put down. But when his heart was lifted up and his spirit was hardened in pride, he was disposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory away from him.
Mercy.
Then he was driven out from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beast of his dwellings, and he was with the wild donkeys. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God rules in the kingdom of man and appoints over it whom he chooses." And I could read something from Jeremiah real quick, right? So just for context, right? So Jeremiah and Ezekiel during the Babylonian Empire were actually prophets who got left behind, right? So Daniel was taken to Babylon. Jeremiah and Ezekiel were actually contemporaries, but they didn't make the cut.
Yeah, they were left.
so they got left behind.
The devastation of Jerusalem.
Exactly. So now I'm gonna read from Jeremiah 27, right? And this was like the prophecy. This is like, so this going back to the beginning of Nebuchadnezzar, when Nebuchadnezzar was about to come into the land, right? And you just read from verse 8. So 27 verse 8. I'm actually read from verse 6. Now I will give all your countries into the hands of my servant Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and I will make even the wild animals subject to him. All nations will serve him, and his son and his grandson, until the time for his land comes. Then many nations and great kings will subjugate him. And just for historical context, it is believed that Belshazzar was actually the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, but through his mother. So Nebuchadnezzar was probably like a son-in-law through usurpation that came to the throne. But it's still believed that Belshazzar was still a grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, but through his mother. Hence why the queen mother could have told him, like, yo, Nebuchadnezzar had this guy in the empire too. Probably lines up. But we see even the prophecy in Jeremiah said that, yo, Nebuchadnezzar knowledge will serve him, his son, and his grandson. However, if any nation or kingdom will not serve Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, or bow its neck under his yoke, I will punish that nation with the sword, flame, famine, and plague, declares the Lord, until I destroy it by his hand. So do not listen to your prophets, your diviners, your interpreters of dreams, your mediums, or your sorcerers who tell you you will not serve the king of Babylon. They prophesy lies to you that will only serve to remove you far from your lands. I will banish you and you will perish. But if any nation will bow its neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him, I will let that nation remain in its own land to live there, and they will not to till it and to live there, declares the Lord.
Bro, hey, I can be real. It's some of these things are so interconnected. It's crazy, bro. Like, I don't know, by the grace of God, bro, if we doing this for decades to come, we gonna approach. Yeah, we gonna approach Chronicles and Kings and the prophets. We can intertwine them if we could.
And that's why I wanted to do Chronicles last.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, because after we already go through all the prophets and everything, we go through Chronicles, we can be able to much more meaning. Boy, I can't wait for that, bro, because I came across something the other day. It was a text. It's a little unrelated. But it was like powerful to me, bro. Like 2 Chronicles 36, verse 20. And those who escaped from the sword, he carried away to Babylon. They're talking about Nebuchadnezzar, where they became servants to him and his sons until the rule of the kingdom of Persia to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, right? And the word was, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths, as long as she lay desolate, she kept the Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. And bro, it's so crazy to me because when the Israelites, before Babylon, they had just been worshiping idols. They had just been breaking covenant, breaking the commandments, right? Including the Sabbath. They desecrated the Sabbath to the point where God was like, yo, I am going to get somebody to destroy y'all, to take y'all away from this land. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way the land going to be able to enjoy the Sabbath. Mm. You see what I'm saying? I taking y'all away because y'all don't, and it's a little different than our Sabbath, which is the same concept, rest. You see what I'm saying? The 7th day was rest. Even the land was supposed to rest. Every 7th year, they supposed to rest from taking up crops. You know, it's the year of Jubilee. It was a system that God had put in place for the people of Israel, you know? And because they desecrated that system, it's like, don't worry. The land could get its rest. You know what I mean? If y'all don't want to do things the right way, it's gonna happen regardless. And you know, I just find that so crazy how connected some of these things are, you know. And so yeah, in the book of Chronicles, you know, Jeremiah the prophet, etc., they prophesy, you know, about the Babylonian Empire, bro. They mention these things, bro. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Like they mention the amount of years. They say a 70-year period. You know what I mean? Like they mention the amount of years until y'all could come back and restart a city, X, Y, Z. You know, very much connected.
And then the next thing to point out, this could be a slight tangent, right? But even we just see in Jeremiah, what was Jeremiah prophesying against too just now? He was saying, guess what? God already tell y'all, y'all about to be subjugated to Babylon. And this message wasn't to the Israel. This was to couple nations, because they even say 10 envoys to Edom, Moab, Ammon, Tyre, and Sidon. Like God sends message to all of y'all. All y'all about to be subjugated to your thing. And that's what we say. Whoever nation don't, y'all can get wiped out, right? But what we see, what also was happening here, what Jeremiah is prophesying against was, this wasn't a popular message in the kingdom, right? So now you have some prophets who rose up and was saying there's no way that God will subjugate us to Babylon. Because now they're prophesying the popular message, the message the people want here, and Palmer message, oh yeah, God ain't gonna leave us or forsake us. And God's saying, guess what? I ain't leaving y'all or forsaking y'all, but y'all have to pay for y'all's sins. And since y'all were not faithful to me, I am putting y'all under the hand of the Babylonian Empire because y'all won't worship their gods, so you be subjugated to them.
But that whole thing, I can't wait to get to Jeremiah, because I couldn't believe that was in the Bible, bro. I could not believe God give this man a message to tell his people, and then the other prophets was like, nope, that ain't what God say. A bunch of prophets now, you know, nope, that ain't what God say, but you lying. God say this, the vast opposite. You know what I mean? Like, prosperity, you know, we doing it, and if for y'all on good, bro. Like how delusional can you be? This is but it's in your best interest to know that we about to be destroyed, you know. But nah, they don't want to say that.
But the prophecy telling y'all, buddy, if you want this city to not become a ruin, don't fight back. But if you want the city to be ruined, okay, fight back, because I guarantee. Oh boy, but yeah, that's just wild. Like, and it just shows like how the devil uses things that seem good and seem contrary to what God would do, but taking it out of context, and that's the popular message that getting spread. Because why would God let His chosen people get captured? Because y'all already turned y'all back on Him for centuries. You know what I'm saying? Why not give y'all over to your own desires? Because this is what y'all was showing me y'all wanted forever.
Bro, I was saying a pastor say how the Lord, so it's like, you know, how the wealth of the wicked is stored for the righteous type of situation, right? Mm-hmm. It's like the Lord He makes a covenant with us. It's a binding agreement. you oblige to the terms of the agreement, God gonna keep his end of the bargain. But if you don't, you break the agreement. Ain't no end of the bargain to get. So now there's situations where your wealth is stored up for the wicked because you want to be wicked. You see what I'm saying? Or your wealth is stored up for other people who have been righteous. Other people who have been good stewards with what the Lord has given them. And sometimes you could say, oh, God brings, it's just a matter of perspective. You could say God brings curses upon us, or you could consider that God protects us from curses. But now when you show God that you have no desire to be in covenant with him, he removes his protection. And now you are subjected to curses, straight up. You know what I mean? Because but if we say the devil like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour, every day, it's a hungry lion trying to get you, right? And you walk out and you get eaten by the lion. You can say, oh, the God is the lion, or you can say the devil is the lion, because the devil is the lion. The devil want all these bad things to happen to you. You see what I'm saying? Now the difference is God is the protection against the lion, And so when we choose not to be in covenant, when we just break his commandments like the Israelites did, when we just have no regard for God, that's the situation that we've been in. Now we know how the Lord brought Nebuchadnezzar to Israel, right? Because the wealth of Israel was stored up for not even a righteous person. But y'all break the covenant, and so y'all are no longer protected, right? And so this is what y'all get, and this is what I told y'all was going to happen. I told y'all this from Leviticus. I told y'all this from Deuteronomy. This was going to happen. The prophets didn't even have to get specific. But destruction is at the end of the path where you were traveling. And so now that y'all go there, this, what I'm saying, y'all get the fate of what was prophesied.
Yeah. And even going like, and just even thinking about it while he was talking, like even going back to last week's episode, right? When God was trying to drive home the point to Nebuchadnezzar, bro, I can put in power whom I see fit, right? He was trying to tell the Israelites this ahead of time too. Like, guess what? Y'all saying, why would we be so? Why God give us over to pagan nation? God saying, I could use who I want to use when I want to use them.
Straight up,
right? I put in power whom I see fit. I empower who I set who I want on the throne. And that's the same thing you're telling about Nebuchadnezzar last week's episode, last chapter, bro. I can turn you into a madman because I given you over to your natural desires. You want to act like a beast, you're going to be a beast. Don't think anything you have ain't because of me. You know what I'm saying? All your riches, everything you are allowed to accomplish as king of Babylon. You are allowed to sit on the throne, be the longest Babylonian king. No one tried to usurp you for 43 years. You was able to build the gates of Ashtar. You was able to build the hanging gardens of Babylon. I allowed you to do these things. Don't get it twisted here, buddy boy. Don't get it twisted. I allowed you to be king. Now, and multiple times during your kingly rule, you tried to disrespect me, knowing it was me, the one true God, trying to turn away prophecy. But guess what? Prophecy has to be fulfilled. Your kingdom will come to an end. And you see, God had grace on him because who was to say God couldn't end the kingdom during Nebuchadnezzar's reign?
Definitely could have.
You know what I'm saying? Like he essentially, in a weird way, God extended grace to Nebuchadnezzar, same grace he extended to Solomon and David. I ain't gonna let y'all see the kingdom end under y'all reign, but guess what? Y'all kingdom will come to an end because of the sins you guys committed. So now we see in verse 22, but you, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew this. So Daniel's saying, buddy, you was around when these things happened. You know better. You know better, and you are voluntarily choosing to be ignorant right now.
They say, but you knew all of this.
You see Daniel scolding him like a child right now, buddy. Your knees can keep on knocking, buddy.
No, but hold on, bro. Hold on. Daniel just talk about the dream, right? He talk about the interpretation of the dream.
Exactly.
He talk about the dream being actually realized, like it actually happening. And then coming back, he talked about the God who orchestrated this whole thing. And they said, bro, you knew all of this.
All of this.
So let me ask you this. How could he have known all of this and not known who Daniel was, bro? This willful ignorance on this Belshazzar. Bro, it's the man's name is Belteshazzar. You see what I saying? Like, but like, how you don't know Belteshazzar and your name Belshazzar? You get what I said? It's a popular guy running around with basically your same name. And he popular.
Exactly. And again, like just, I mean, I don't want to hop on this, right? But again, y'all under siege, bro.
Oh, yeah, true.
So you doing all of this just blatantly ignorant, dog. Just blatantly ignorant. And you see Daniel really just trying to drive him, bro. What you doing right now is completely foolish. On multiple accords. You know what happened to Nebuchadnezzar. You was there for the interpretation team. You was there when he was acting like a fool for 7 years. You know why he was doing this. You know how proud he was. And yet you here in the middle of a siege throwing a feast for 1,000 people.
Come on, act like you got some sense, bro.
Hey, and then on top of this foolish action, you want to take the goblets that was dedicated to my God.
Daniel, like, boy, look at the mess. Look at the mess y'all bringing me in through the night.
Hey, I was home chilling, buddy. I might have just finished my evening prayers and I get called to this foolishness. I come in here, y'all praising the gods of silver and gold while y'all got my God. Like,
come on, bro.
You need to get the post. You want me to go call Cyrus in here right now for you, buddy? Because this ain't making sense.
Right. No, that's
we need to change your regime around here.
But you know, the Bible say pride come before the fall.
Mercy.
This was truly an act of pride. Right? But I can be real. I've been there where I was showing off. Where I just showing off and gloating. You see what I'm saying? But bro, how foolish did you have to be? See, it's like, I remember is a rapper, he say, play with something safe. You see what you playing with? But out of all the gods to play with, this is what you playing with? Because in the end, it's like, I want to show that I'm the big bad wolf. I want to show that by even my ancestor Nebuchadnezzar, he feared this God, but not me. You see what I'm saying? I don't care. I let you know, nah, I don't care, bro. I crazy like that. You know what I mean? And we see how that ends, bro. Like it's a foolish action, bro. This is, so. But to me, honestly, when I read this, the part where it says, you knew all this?
All.
Pi, I just like, wow. Because like, so now Daniel basically saying, bro, Pi, I don't even know why I'm talking to you right now, bro. You know what's scaring, but you know what you do was so wrong, bro. You know what you was doing was wrong, bro. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, this is like almost like a waste of my time, Dread.
Yeah.
All right. And then he's saying verse 23. And okay, I just read 22 again. But you, Belshazzar, have not humbled your heart, although you knew all of this. And you have lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven. They have brought the vessels of his house before you, and your lords and your wives and your concubines have drunk from them. And you have praised the gods of silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, which do not see or hear or know. And the God who holds your breath in his hand and owns all your ways you have not glorified. Then the fingers of the hand was sent from him, and this writing was written. So Daniel's saying, buddy, you take my God's goblets, you drink from them while praising other gods. But guess what, buddy? The gods you praising, they can't do nothing for you. Not a thing. But my God, who has your breath in his hand, other words, who has your life in his hands, you ain't even try to glorify him. Mercy. Whereas your father Nebuchadnezzar wrote a whole chapter to him. You want me to go back and find the scroll? I could go back and find the scroll where Nebuchadnezzar praised the Most High God, and I'm sure it's in the Royal Chronicle somewhere.
prime example that this could not have been avoided. Nebuchadnezzar write it. You catch what I'm saying? And he dead now. So you know what I mean? So it ain't like, oh, he didn't write it yet. No, he wrote this already.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so now, and the inscription that was written was Mene Tekel Upharsin. Mene Tekel Upharsin. So even before we get to Daniel's interpretation, right? So it's like these words have like literal meanings. And they both like nouns and verbs, right? Because Daniel gives the interpretation, but just to break down what they actually like physically meant or translate to, right?
Yeah.
Is Mene is a mina, which is a shekel.
Unit.
Yeah, it's like a unit.
Measurement.
And it essentially means to number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then tekel is a shekel and to weigh. And a farsin is a half of shekel and to divide, right? So we say it has some interesting meanings, right? So why did these words mene tekel farsin appear on the wall? And so Daniel gives us the interpretation.
What language?
I'm gonna let you say.
Yeah. So
believe, right?
yeah. So it's generally accepted that this is Aramaic.
Correct.
Which adds another level of complexity, because the Babylonians understood Aramaic. That was a language very well known in that time. As a matter of fact, I think Daniel chapter 3 or one of the earlier chapters in Daniel, it was written. A few verses were written in Aramaic. You catch what I'm saying? So now the question is, if we know, let's say we speak English, you know what I mean? If somebody write on the wall a half, a whole, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And whatever, you catch what I'm saying? Like if they write the units, you looking at it like, I can read this, but I don't know what it means. You catch what I'm saying?
Yeah, to number, to weigh, to divide.
Right. And so that's why this was that's why this was even more perplexing, because I used to think that this was written in Hebrew. And so nobody could just read it. Nobody could read it. No, this was written. This was written in a language that you could read. You just can't understand it.
You don't know what it means.
You don't know what it means. I was using an example off mic, right? Where in Spanish, they say de nada, right? If you ask anybody what that means, they're going to say, you're welcome. But de is like saying of, nada is like saying nothing. So how does that mean you're welcome? It's not that it means you're welcome, but it's the English equivalent to de nada would be you're welcome. You see what I'm saying? So that's like in America, they might say thank you, and you say don't mention it, or it's nothing. You get what I'm saying? So it's nothing. So
small things.
Small things. That's what we say in the Bahamas. Small things, a little bit of dirt. Don't watch that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. So and that's kind of what's happening here, right? So now think about it. And again, you in a drunken stupor, having a thrown a party, a disembodied hand, write this on the wall. You like, bro, what? It's just like someone saying plus minus divide on the wall. And you're like, bro, what that mean?
Right. This a video game code or something.
Yeah, like what that mean? And because it's one thing to like, okay, I don't what I supposed to do with this information right now?
Right, okay. I divide, subtract. Oh, okay.
But it's something serious.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's something serious just because of how it appeared. And you're like, okay, we need to figure out what this means. And so now in verse 26, we see Daniel says, the interpretation of each word, mene, God has numbered your kingdom and finished it. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Upharsin or Peres, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then Belshazzar gave the command, and they clothed Daniel with purple and put a chain of gold around his neck and made a proclamation concerning him that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was slain, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
Bro, that must have been a scary night, bro. Scary, bro. In the midst of your partying, I really get second-hand embarrassment when I see somebody like very happy and they just get embarrassed in the middle of their happiness. You see what I'm saying? Like you're doing something you know you weren't supposed to do. Like when you see like a CCTV footage, someone think they're getting away with something, and then the police. I feel so embarrassed. And I'm like, bro, that's a shameful. You just look shameful, bro. And so in the middle of y'all partying like y'all win the war, you get very scared because you see the hand of God. Quite literally, the writing is on the wall. And short, bro, and that was your last night alive. You never saw another happy moment. From that moment, you now worried. You had to find someone. Think about how long of a night you had. You had to now wake up I don't know how late in the night it was, but you had to get all the astrologers. They had to fail. Then your mother telling you about this other guy. You had to find him. Daniel, aka Belshazzar. Find him. He come true. He give you a sermon. And he give you some bad news. And you know what's so funny? This ain't even like Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was also an unrighteous man, right? Kill who he want, kill. Spare who he want, spare. Do whatever, right? Was not gracious to the poor. But when it was time for his bad news, what Daniel say? Oh, king, if only this was for your enemies. If only this was for the people that hate you.
If only.
But here, Belshazzar, Daniel is taking the approach of, bro, we pass the formalities right now, bro. You know better. And God sees it this way. You see, God spared Nebuchadnezzar by giving him a hard lesson, a 7-year lesson. You don't have the excuse that Nebuchadnezzar had. What you doing, you violating, bro. Nebuchadnezzar had to be introduced to us. And it take longer for him to be introduced. He was stubborn. You could have learned from his mistakes, but instead, you took the time to be even more disrespectful. And after that night, they give Daniel his chain, his robe, whatever, his position.
Because he knew what was coming.
Yeah, Daniel. But when you read and say, "But this kingdom over," what could you give me, bro? Like
this can do for me, hey, and I can look over the wall and see the fires burning of the Persian Empire.
I can see, but you never know. But Daniel might even catch wind of that before on his way there. I know that's just me speculating. Probably didn't happen, but anyway. But I can see where it say this kingdom is over, bro. Over. You could Daniel, but you could keep your chain, bro. Straight up, that's done. You done, bro. You're done. And that night it came to pass. And that's quick. That's quick execution.
I mean, but again, just to everyone, Nabonidus had lost to Cyrus. Bro, in history, the Medes and the Persians conquered Babylon without a fight. Darius walked into that city without a fight. The people were already so fed up with Belshazzar and Nabonidus, right? They was done so fed up with them. So when Darius walked up, it was like people was like, oh yeah, okay, cool, we welcome y'all. And then just for history purposes, yes, Cyrus was the king. Darius was like a sub-king, almost like a governor under Cyrus. Cyrus was a Persian who, let's say, was fighting in a different place. And then Darius was like a general in the army, and he became ruler of Babylon. Like Cyrus, like, okay, you could have this territory type thing.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why, because there's also goes, this is not Darius the Great. Darius the Great was like 4 kings later.
Yeah, this is Darius the Mede.
The Mede.
And by the way, you never know. Some sun might blow in Iran, and they might discover.
They call him Gabu. I think it's his, like, if you actually go in history, his other name was like Gabaru or Gabaru. And so like he's a real person.
Right. They might find some more tangible evidence on his time conquering Babylon. You know.
But yeah, man, that's the end of Babylon. Babylon is fallen, is fallen. That great city that made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of a fornication.
Mercy.
Hey,
Yeah,
take it
so
up with
this,
John.
yeah, for it. So this is the literal um recollection of Babylon's empire being tumbled, you know what I'm saying, being overtaken. It's crazy, bro. So, bro,
What's so interesting to me? Oh, go for it.
no, go on.
So like this can be kind of historical, right? But what's so interesting to me is like most of these kingdoms had like one, maybe two really good kings, and then after them it just fall apart.
Yeah.
Because like in Babylon was like Nebuchadnezzar, super long reign. 4 people with under like a 4-year reign. Nebuchadnezzar had like a 6-year reign, but he was doing foolishness. His son come and it was just garbage. Then you had the Persians. You had Cyrus, who was decent, quote unquote. You had Darius, right? Then you had a bunch of, Artaxerxes and Xerxes and stuff in there too, right? So those are right. And when you get to Greek, it was Alexander the Great. Then it was like a bunch of little generals who couldn't really decide their mind, and they lose to Rome.
Mhm.
And then Rome just was a different beast altogether.
Yeah, Rome, they had a good amount of
We still,
they had a good run.
one would argue we're still dealing with Rome today.
Yeah, they had a nice run. I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, I mean, and it's also kind of interesting when you see, and especially in the Bible, someone's foolishness, like just costing a kingdom. You see what I'm saying? Like Rehoboam, they ask him to lighten the taxes. Lighten the taxes? I'm about to double the taxes. You know what I mean? Cause a revolt.
Right.
You end up losing the kingdom. You know, well, the kingdom had to get split. You know, we have situations like that. Even Daniel's son, he didn't really get to be the king. But Daniel had a few sons who just was doing foolishness when they was trying to be king. You know what I mean? Not Daniel. I keep saying Daniel. I mean David. David.
I know, yeah.
David.
David.
Yeah.
But David just.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, pride come before the fall. Pride come before the fall. Now, in the context of the book of Daniel that we're reading now, here we see the end of the Babylonian Empire. And they end kind of like how they, like not how they started, but in the book, it end kind of like how it started. Once again, we have a king with no regard for God. You see what I'm saying? Blaspheming God, taking the things of God lightly. And because of that, the Lord had to make a statement to show them who I really am. We saw that with the 3 Hebrew boys. Like the first chapter down, and they introduced them. They were set apart, they was wise, right? But that second chapter, we start to see the theme. We see this king who has no regard for God and would make people worship the way he wants them to. You see what I'm saying? And now there's a constant tension between who is going to be the ruler of all people. Is it going to be the God who created us, or is it going to be the person who is actually captured everyone, or like who actually rules, who has the empire over the earth? And just when we got to a point where Nebuchadnezzar has worshipped the Most High God, we see descendants of Nebuchadnezzar. Not only have they lost the recipes, but they trying a whole new dish. They have something completely different now in store. Oh no, we disrespecting God at any time. The Most High God, but that's a joke to me, bro. But he's so confident that they gonna win the battle. Oh, y'all sieging us? Y'all cutting off our food supply? Wait, that ain't nothing to us, bro. You see what I'm saying? This we see. So to me, that's the spirit of like the head of gold. That's like the head of gold syndrome. If I could diagnose that on spot right now. Nebuchadnezzar, where it's like, bro, speak not against the system.
My kingdom is too great to fall.
Yeah, you can't talk against the kingdom. The kingdom is the kingdom, bro. Like, you see all we did? But that's the brand. You cannot break the brand. The brand is everlasting, but we will not fail type of situation. So now, even in the midst of adversity, bro, but y'all can try to stop us. We unstoppable. And that's how we acting. No God can stop us. No human can stop us. And as it turns out, that was false. And we see how the Lord's kingdom You see what I'm saying? The Lord's word remains true, even despite any type of naysayer or blasphemer. Belshazzar, king of Babylon, threw a great feast. And in the midst of the feast, he decided to desecrate the sacred vessels from the temple of Jerusalem by drinking out of it. In the midst of doing so, the hand of God appeared and wrote a message on the wall which no one could interpret. So then they call in Daniel, who interprets the writing as God's judgment against Belshazzar. That very night, Belshazzar is killed, and Darius the Mede takes over the kingdom. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.